From the heartland of America, focused on God, family, and country, the mouthpiece of the Midwest. This is Dale Carter's America.
Hello there, Dale Carter back with you for another week of Dale Carter's America, the podcast, along with Kurt Wheeler, and we're really glad that you're here. You see I'm wearing a Royals jersey. We'll get into why we're doing that here a little bit later on. But first, Kurt's going to tell you all the ways that you can consume the podcast, and more importantly to us, share the podcast, get the word out.
Yes, absolutely. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube or Rumble for the video version, wherever you're watching. Drop a like, drop a comment, subscribe, and share the link with your friends. We do appreciate it. And you can find the audio-only version on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, and then follow us on Facebook as well. Join in the conversation.
But if you don't watch the video, you can't see that I'm wearing a Royals World Series jersey.
I'm wearing blue, which was not intentional, but...
Well, you know, it all ties together.
Yep.
It does. We are your safe space for rooting for the country. You know, despite all the politics involved in everything, at the end of the day, we are rooting for this country. We want the country to win. We wanted the country to win when Biden was president. We want the country to win when Trump is president. And we'll want the country to win no matter what happens in 2028 and whoever takes over. That's just who we are and what we are. The Royals, you may have seen this, have revealed a partnership with Kansas City-based Hallmark to build a new stadium at Crown Center. It kind of makes sense if you think about it. Royals, the crown. The crown is the logo for Hallmark. Hallmark is a big brand in not only the country, but in the world. So suddenly I'm feeling a little bit better about this. What will Becky Nace have to say about it? Becky has been running the Save Kauffman Stadium group on Facebook. They have thousands of members, and they have done everything in their power, including helping to defeat the tax that the Chiefs and the Royals were behind to stay there, because it was a sham from the beginning. Becky Nace will talk about all that, and you know, maybe some of the do we have renderings from the press conference?
Yeah, we have renderings. I can pull them up.
I mean, you know, because they were going to jam the thing into Washington Square Park, right between Union Station and Crown Center, and that never made any sense to me. Where they're going to put it now is going to take some of that Crown Center space, and again, it's going to be a partnership between Crown Center, Hallmark, rather, the Hall family, the Royals, the city of Kansas City, the state of Missouri. You can see there from the rendering where the ballpark will be. And, you know, people like my wife, who is a Cass County redneck, she's never going to embrace this. Maybe at some point down the road she will embrace it. At least they stayed in Missouri. The Chiefs are dead to her because they moved to Kansas. But, you know, maybe one day she'll embrace this. I am seeing other people out there who are a little more open-minded, saying, okay, I can kind of see that. There are some issues. I mean, I got big issues. How are you going to get there? Do you see major interstates going in there?
Nope. Nope. I mean, there's small roads, but the closest thing, which they have, I think, in this rendering is the streetcar stops. But
yeah,
I mean, how many people can the streetcar realistically
not enough
hold? You know,
not enough. I mean, I used to go to Chicago a lot because I was a diehard Cub fan, and I rode the L to Wrigley Field, and that is a much bigger system than what you have in the streetcar, and it was still jammed.
Yeah.
You know, and they're not going to be able to run enough streetcars there. It's going to be cars that are going to make up the bulk of this. You got crime. Where are you going to park all those cars? I mean, there are a lot of concerns there. We'll see where it goes from there. But again, Becky Nace is going to join us here on the podcast, and we'll talk to her about that.
Here's another rendering.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of cool. You got the skyline in the background. You got the fountains. They kept the crown. I like it in concept. I just have concerns, and I think it's okay to have concerns and talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then what becomes of the Truman Sports Complex? As you know, I am running to be on the Jackson County Legislature, and Phil Laboda has already started with a group of leaders to talk about reimagining that. I have some thoughts on that. I'll hold that, and I'll share that with Becky Nace when we get her on the podcast. Our next live event, I have locked this in, May 21st at Funhouse Pizza in Lee's Summit. It's going to be a fun night. I'm telling you, we always tell you to have great events at Funhouse Pizza, and I think our podcast live events qualify for that. Special guests on the event will be House Speaker John Patterson, who's become a very good friend. And former Chiefs player, now motivational speaker and author, Ron Freeman. Do you know Ron?
I saw him at an event. I didn't meet him, but I know who he is.
He's a great speaker.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about race relations. And I just, on the way here to do the podcast, I heard him with Kevin Keatsman because have you seen this about the Southern Poverty Law Center?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
crazy stuff.
I want to dig into that next week because right now I don't feel like I have enough facts. I think we'd just be shooting from the hip on it. And believe it or not, I like to have some facts in front of me before we do that.
I mean, I can give the boilerplate version of it.
Give me the boilerplate.
Yeah. So basically, the DOJ and FBI made a joint press conference statement based on an indictment they made involving the SPLC, alleging that they donated up to $3 million over the course of, I think, 4 years or something, to quote unquote hate groups. So basically the SPLC is funding the leaders of like the KKK and allegedly the whole Charlottesville thing, the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, they were paying the organizers of that. So the implication there is that there's not enough actual hate to go around. So the leading anti-hate group, the SPLC, who gets their donations based on everything's racist and terrible, they have to gin up these groups in order to make themselves relevant.
Well, who's been saying that for a long time? I have. You know, the Rainbow Coalition and Al Sharpton and all those people, they make money off of separation in this country. And what I did hear about it was that after Charlottesville, fundraising for the Southern Poverty Law Center spiked.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah.
Tremendously. Mm-hmm. So, it's like starting a fire, right?
Yeah.
And then saying we need more fire trucks.
And you can remember, Biden and Harris both, Biden launched his campaign based on Charlottesville and the fake lie that Trump called, white supremacists very fine people or whatever, which is just total BS.
Didn't say it.
The whole campaign was based on that event. And so now it's looking like that event. I'm sure there was actual Nazis or whatever there, but the organizers and a lot of it was astroturfed for sure.
Well, come to our event May 21st at Funhouse. House Speaker John Patterson's probably going to talk about the income tax issue in Missouri, among other things going on in the session down there. And Ron Freeman will be addressing this and other issues like that. We'll gather at 5 p.m. Then we start the show at 6 o'clock. Another campaign event I wanted to make everybody aware of. The First Friday event in Grain Valley on Friday, May 1st. I will be there with a tent. I'm not sure what we're going to do with it, but we're going to have some fun. We're going to meet some voters there in Grain Valley, which is part of the district I'm running to represent, and that'll be May 1st from 5 until 8 o'clock. You can follow the campaign. You can help us out if you want to. We're always looking for contributions to pay for things like signs and digital advertising and all the other things that are associated with the campaign on the expense side at dalecarter.us. Help us out here as we're trying to make a difference in Jackson County. You don't have to live in Jackson County to help us out. Bob Watson helps us out. He is my State Farm agent. He's been repping State Farm for over 5 decades now.
I'd say congratulations.
7th and Main in Blue Springs, 816-229-7878. Usually I give him a tip of the headphones there at the start, but I kind of forgot. So Bob, you're getting a little love later in the segment than you normally do. Auto, home, life, commercial insurance. He's licensed in both Missouri and Kansas. Bundle your home and car insurance and save. Get the agent that I have. You know the brand State Farm. Now you know the guy. Bob Watson, 816-229-7878. And again, he's licensed in both Missouri and Kansas. He's officed in Blue Springs. Clay Como Shooters. They're the folks on 69 Highway in Clay Como, full-service firearms dealer, including buying guns, experienced trainers with law enforcement background, indoor shooting range. We encourage you to get a firearm to protect your family within your home because Democrats, especially in cities, aren't going to protect you. They're not. They want to defund the police. They want to defund ICE. I don't know what their policy is moving forward because it's all just basically anti-Trump at this point. But we know who they are and we know what's going on here. There's a story from Louisiana. Maybe you saw this, Kurt. A guy killed 8 kids. 7 of them were his.
Wow.
Tried to kill the mother of his children, too.
Lord have mercy.
And he was killed by the police trying to run away. So, but the only question that you have in the liberal media is, how did he get the gun? How did he get the gun? You know, bad people are going to do bad things. They said he was a criminal and he wasn't supposed to have a gun. Well, criminals break the law by virtue of being a criminal. So Clay Como Shooters evens the odds in your favor. They have affordable pricing. They're not a big box store, neighborhood business looking out for the community. Protect yourself and your family. Find the right firearm and get trained on it. Give them a call at 816-452-4867. Clay Como Shooters, 69 Highway in Clay Como. When you're getting closer to 65, the name you need to have on speed dial is Kirk Doris. I had a friend, in fact, this week who turned 65. And I said, all right, we got to have the Medicare discussion. You got to call my buddy Kirk Doris at Medicare Simplified KC because he is going to run the traps for you. This is a complicated program. And it doesn't help that we're in our 60s now either. You know, complicated doesn't work as well when you get into your 60s. So you need a guy like Kirk Doris who's done this. Which part, which plan, which supplemental do you need? Kirk Doris knows all of that, and he can share it with you. And you won't pay him. He gets paid by the insurance companies. 816-701-6661. 816-701-6661. Office at 3600 South Nolan Road in Independence. If you can't come to him, he's going to come to you. Either way, we're going to get this done with Medicare Simplified KC.com. My next guest is a longtime civic leader in the Kansas City area. Very pleased to have her on the podcast, Becky Nace. Well, special guest on the podcast today. You've heard a lot about the Royals and the move to Crown Center and all that. The person who's been trying to save Kauffman Stadium and has a huge group on Facebook is my friend Becky Nace. Becky, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, Dale. Good to be here.
I just for you and all the folks who want to save Kauffman, I wore my Salvador Perez World Series jersey. You like that?
We love that.
See that? Got a little World Series logo on it.
I like it.
Yeah. So you and I have known each other for a long time. I know you were on the Kansas City Council for a while. You moved to Blue Springs. We worked together on the Charter Review Commission back in the day. So we've known each other for a while.
Yeah.
You have a passion for Kauffman Stadium, and you've put this group together. Remind everybody what the group is all about.
Well, just as its name, Save Kauffman Stadium, we are specifically a group that are Royals fans and so on. And we expanded that, to the Chiefs as well. We want to save Truman Sports Complex. We feel it's a gem, but the people on our group are huge Royals fans, season ticket holders, occasional attendees, people from the region, Iowa, Nebraska, Kansas. We have a group of 10,700 people who love the Royals.
Yeah. So it has nothing to do with the tax per se, because I know you were worried about some confusion about that the tax extension that Jackson County voters voted down, that's not really about that. It's about saving the sports franchises for the Truman Sports Complex.
It's about a lot of things. If you put 10,700 people in a room, it's about a lot of things.
Well, that's true.
And it's about taxes. I think the one thing we have in common is we love the Royals and the Chiefs, and we love Truman Sports Complex. From there, we have people concerned about who's paying for this, that billionaires should pay for their own toys. And we have people who feel like tax dollars have a certain purpose and role. And we have people who feel our taxes are too high. And we have people who feel that basic services are impacted when we use taxpayer dollars in this manner. So it's a pretty broad group that coalesce around the uniting factor that we love the Royals and we love Truman Sports Complex.
Well, I want to break this into different pieces. The first piece I want to break it into is the Royals and the Chiefs are tenants of the Truman Sports Complex. It is owned by Jackson County. So if the tenants decide they want to move out, as the Chiefs and Royals have done, how in the world, even if my wife tells me this because she bleeds royal blue. She is from here, grew up a Royals fan, has memories of going to that stadium many times as a little girl. And what I try and get across to her is if the people who own the team don't want to play there, it's their team, right?
Right. Now, let me restructure this relationship. It's not a traditional renter, landlord, owner, tenant situation. This is very different relationship.
How so?
The rent is returned to them. I don't know any other situation where that would happen. Their rent is returned to them.
Yes.
The maintenance the amount of maintenance we fund includes the ability for them to use that for some operations as well. General repairs, even a renter who's in a house, certain repairs they are going to do. And we're funding this for them. We don't get parking revenue.
Well, that's
we
true
don't
too.
control. This is a big one. We don't control Truman Sports Complex. They have sole control of the use of the property. If, in fact, the county executive once said, we can't use that property if we wanted. Maybe we wanted to use the parking lot to generate some revenue for a program or whatever. We can't do that without their permission, and they could even charge us to do that.
But my point is the same. They are the tenants, and if they want to leave, they can leave. We really can't hold their feet to the fire.
Right. We have a lease with them, and they have certain obligations under the lease until that's over. But yes, they have the right to go anywhere they want, and as long as they pay for it.
Right.
If they want our tax dollars, then we have a say.
Well, where are you on yesterday's announcement with Crown Center? Because as I heard that thing roll out, it looks like it's 2/3 private money, 1/3 tax money, and the tax money being put up, I guess it's going to be a TIF district. Am I wrong on that?
Yeah, TIF and others. There are several tools that would work in this project, so it's going to be more than that, but definitely a TIF.
So it's not going to be the Truman Sports Complex. They've made that abundantly clear. They don't want to play there. The location at Crown Center, there are a lot of obstacles there, which I'm sure you want to get into, but at least it's still in Kansas City.
Right. When you look at their decision to move there, we have to look beyond, and by we, I mean taxpayers that are funding it. We have to look at it as, what is the impact of market forces on that investment and our responsibility to pay the debt service on that. The teams, if they were paying for it themselves, they might look at it a little bit differently if they were risking their capital. So we have to look at it as a business also.
Yeah.
And as far as you saying they're going to pay this percent, that never works out that way in practice.
I felt better about when they were talking about jamming a stadium into Washington Square Park. I'm like, I'm not sure what you people are smoking down there. But when they roll out the Hall family and you've got the internationally known brand of Hallmark behind it, and they're doing this together, to me, that gave it a little more credibility. What about you?
Well, it solves some problems for the Hall family because they had properties that were underutilized due to, the card business is shrinking. They are going to be able to get rid of, for lack of a better term, some underutilized property, and some buildings will be torn down as a part of that. They will be able to build a new right-sized for their business needs headquarters today. So it's a win for them. And, it's a win for the Royals. So it is a good partnership that brought a better design and outcome and space so far. I mean, when you see the pretty pictures up front, that's just what it is. When they get into it and look at once you start turning dirt, or once their architects, the engineers, it could look different. It could, based on infrastructure and things like that. So it could look very different. But again, the point is, for Kansas City, it shouldn't be about the pretty pictures. It should be about what are the market forces. The same day that they made this announcement yesterday, there was a poll done by one of the television stations, and do you like this location? Do you want this downtown? 70% said no. That had to be shocking, and they can't ignore that.
Well, one of the things that and as I'm getting older, I'm probably getting worse about stuff like this, but I think Kansas City has this reputation. Things like Kemper Arena. Kemper Arena's fine. We put money into Kemper Arena. We're going to keep Kemper Arena. And then all of a sudden they built Sprint Center downtown, and now it's T-Mobile Center. And I've been to concerts there, and it's a major upgrade. I was one of the people on the other side on the airport. I loved KCI. I loved the 3 circles, and when I'd see that from the air, I knew I was home. But as a frequent flyer, I really like the new airport. I was against it, but I kind of really like it. We don't embrace the shiny new object, and then all of a sudden we do when it's here. And that may well happen with the Royals.
It might, but what I'm more concerned about and discussing when I say market forces, there are people who say, I really don't want to mess with the downtown, the parking and all that. Yeah. I'll go less, not I will never go.
Right.
But I was a season ticket holder, can't see myself going down there that many times a year. And then on the other side, there are people who live downtown or near downtown and think it's great because they're going to be closer, it'll be more convenient. But the point I'm making in all that is, in economic development, there are 2 key terms as it relates to this, or applies to this project. One being transference. When you move something from one area of a city state into another, you have chosen winners and losers.
True.
2, disposable income. Just because you build something that I like doesn't make my disposable income increase. So if I'm downtown or anywhere and I say, oh, I like this new entertainment district, I'm going to go to more games because it's here, I don't have more money to spend. So wherever I spent my money elsewhere suffers. And so that will happen. And so when you look at let's face it, overabundance of tax abated P&L district, other development down there that needs to make the economic impact numbers that were proposed to pay their debt service, you have a situation of concern. And that's why economic development usually cautions against transference, and knowing that if you go into a competing area that also is tax abated and the city's on the hook, or whatever government entity is on the hook for the debt repayment, you have to be cautious.
I have 3 concerns myself, and you may share them as well. There's no easy way to get to Crown Center. There's no direct interstate access, and I kind of wonder, 20,000 cars, 81 dates, how is that going to work? Parking you brought up as an issue, and crime is an issue. We had another shooting that's pretty close to where that ballpark's going to be. We had the Chiefs Super Bowl thing, and our prosecutor is being cute with the political side of this, saying that the thugs who were shooting indiscriminately were covered by the Stand Your Ground law in Missouri, which just infuriates me. So we have that going on. We have a prosecutor not prosecuting crime. There's no easy way to get get there, 20,000 cars going in there, 81 dates,
Right.
and then where are they going to park? Those are my top three concerns here.
You know, when I go downtown to P&L District or to a concert or some venue or whatever, when I go downtown and they are kind of right on this concept, and I'm just speaking for myself, I go early to avoid the traffic and to make sure I can get parking as close as I can. And I either leave early to beat the rush or find myself stuck in a parking garage with exhaust fumes just gathering because people can't get out of there. It's gridlock.
Yeah.
So there is, but if I have my children with me, if I go to a ball game and I have my grandkids with me, I'm not going to a bar. I'm not going to linger. Generally speaking, I need to get them home. And so some of those things are inconsistent with what people do and can do at Truman Sports Complex. So, you know, some of and downtown, let's face it, you can't widen the streets. I heard somewhere that the state might be looking at some highway improvements to try to help. And so when you're expending all this money to try to make something fit in an area where it's going to take a lot of work to address the issues of traffic with other venues. You know, I've seen Kaufman, I've seen them put out a notice and say, hey, I suggest you take an Uber. There are a few events going on downtown. There's not going to be parking. So this is a real concern. And for them to minimize it is really unfair because any of us that go to events downtown know better.
Yeah.
It's an issue.
True.
And the crime, the fear of after dark, that's on them. They need to address that. That's a problem that they have not addressed is the feeling, you know, for people to go downtown and feel safe after dark. And sometimes during the day at these gatherings and events. So, you know, that's can't be overstated enough as a factor.
Well, to be continued on all of that. Meanwhile, Truman Sports Complex very soon is going to lose both the Royals and the Chiefs. Phil Lavoda, as you know, the county executive, has put together a team. In fact, I think they're meeting today, either that or they met yesterday, and they're talking about reimagining that entire area. You know, I'm running for Jackson County Legislature, and I've been talking about that in groups that I'm talking about. It's like, we're not going to have the tenants. We own this as a county. What do we do with it next? You're a very smart person who's been involved in all levels of government. Just looking at it from 30,000 feet, what would you do with it?
I would, and in fact, I've had conversations with Phil on this. I believe that is an ideal location with the freeway access from all points. We must find the highest and best use for that, and it should be something that generates a lot of revenue for the county. And I think that we have a lot of revenue we need to get back.
True.
We've been spending a lot of revenue out there, and it's come at the expense of basic services, infrastructure funding. It has had a negative impact on the county to have it out there.
Well, let me ask you this. Would you keep it as an asset for the county or sell it? Because my first thought was, let the private sector do what the private sector does. Get it off our books. We're not in that business.
I would do an RFP and whatever the highest and best proposal that comes in, and that could include sell it. And absolutely, but what, you know, that I had worked on how to create a development district out there that was a multi-city, and it has to be done by the county. I had researched it. They can create a multi-city. Of course, the cities involved would have to vote and agree to be a part of it. And it could be a massive development that enhanced, you know, not only Kansas City, but Raytown and Independence and so on. So I think we should think big on it, you know, if it comes to that, what the reuse would be. I am concerned about the task force, and I expressed this to Phil, so he won't be hearing it here. I expressed a concern that they were pretty heavily loaded on downtown interests. And so I want to make sure that when these decisions are made, it's in our interest. It's in Jackson County's interest, and not worrying about, is this going to compete with downtown? Is this going to be, we have to look at what's highest and best for us and make money off of it.
Completely agree, 100%. Becky Nace, you've done a lot in this area, and I really appreciate what you've done. I appreciate your friendship, and the conversation will continue, I'm sure.
And I wish you the best of luck and look forward to working with you on the legislature.
You bet. Thanks for being on the podcast.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
And again, a reminder that the podcast live event will be May 21st at Funhouse Pizza. Jim Dingman is the classic host for these things. He's going to be running around, delivering pizzas to everybody, cold drinks, making sure everybody's in great shape for that. And I suspect, Kurt, that we're going to have a big crowd. We have two very good guests, with John Patterson and Ron Freeman. Plus a lot of other friends. We're going to probably turn it into a campaign event too. So come, have some pizza with us, enjoy some time together. And if you got a birthday party coming up, Funhouse Pizza is the best place to take it. You got a team meeting coming up for Little League, Funhouse Pizza. The environment's fun. They got video games. They even have rides. Lee Summit's the bigger location, which is where we're going to be, but it's a fun environment in Blue Springs too. 7 Highway Blue Springs, 50 Highway in Lee Summit, on the web at funhousepizza.com. Speaking of kids, you got more kids coming. You need more bedrooms. It's time to change houses. And I know we keep an eye on rates and what housing is doing and all that. People who have growing families don't really do that. People who have families that are shrinking because the kids, they're empty nesters now. Kids have gone off to college or maybe into the workforce or whatever. It's time to move on. Michael Schroer can help you no matter what stage of life that you are in as it relates to housing. He's with RE/MAX Elite in Lee's Summit. You can reach him on his cell phone, probably best, 816-520-9342. The office number in Lee's Summit is 816-373-8400. Sell your house, buy your next one, maybe a piece of property you want to build on. And one thing I know for sure, Michael Schroer is with us not because we're selling a lot of houses for him. He's with us because he agrees with us. He's always posting on things I put up on Facebook. He will be there, I'm sure, at our event on May 21st, and you should meet him and talk about your housing situation with Michael Schroer. So a gerrymandering update, and this floors me. I hate hypocrisy, right? Mm-hmm. I hate hypocrisy on either side, Republicans or Democrats. So they had a vote in Virginia to move from a 6-5 Dem to Republican split for Congress to 10-1 Democrat. You're from Virginia, right?
I live there. I'm not from there.
Okay.
I lived there for 5 years.
You're from Pennsylvania.
Yes.
All right. I'll remember that one of these days. So right now, as we do the podcast, a judge has put the brakes on it for now, and I'm sure there's going to be all kinds of filings back and forth. There have been in every state. But riddle me this. Is there any difference between what Virginia did and what Missouri did? Mm-hmm. And what Texas did? I mean, it is a little different in that Missouri did this in the legislative process, the state legislature. And if you go to the Constitution, state legislatures are supposed to determine the districts. Virginia did it with a statewide vote, knowing that they had population centers in parts of the state that were very blue, and they overwhelmed the red districts.
Yeah. And you can see on the map, it's the same thing that we've talked about before, where it's like all these shapes, all these like weird shapes on this bottom map. The District 6 looks like it cuts into, I forget what town that is, but that's where University of Virginia, I believe, is
Charlottesville?
Down. It might be Charlottesville or one of the other ones. But yeah, so they're cutting down to get that college liberal vote.
Right.
And then these districts here are cutting up into Northern Virginia to get the Northern Virginia vote. Yeah. Whereas before, District 7 and District 11 cover basically all of Northern Virginia. Now they have all these little tendrils going up there to get the votes.
And I was listening to one of the talk shows, conservative talk shows on KCMO, and they're like, get out the vote. You got to vote no on this. Got to vote no on this. But you wanted Texas to do this. You wanted Missouri to do this. And honestly, Trump opened the door on this because we have traditions in this country, not necessarily cast in law. And one tradition longstanding in this country is that we redistrict in states after the census comes out. And, you know, Democrats, tip your hat to them. When the census came out, they basically went to town gerrymandering. Republicans didn't. And so Trump gets in there. He feels like he's going to get his ass handed to him in the midterm, and he may be right. And so he said, is there any reason we can't redistrict in the middle of a decade? Mm-hmm. And there is no reason. There is no law. The Supreme Court has said that. And he's like, okay, well, let's find some more. Let's find some in Texas. Let's get one in Missouri. Let's do this. Let's do that. And the Democrats said, oh, yeah, game on. I mean, they've already done everything they can do in New England. You won't find a red district in New England from Connecticut north through Maine. There are no Republican congressional districts. It's all blue. And it's like, well, and we've talked about before what they've done in Illinois, what they've done in California. They're going to go in and they're going to do this wherever they can. All right, blue states wrote the book on this, but it's out there, right? So to me, it's hypocrisy to cry and complain about Virginia when we just did it in Missouri.
Yeah.
Now, it looks bad because it was 6-5 and now it's 10-1. Maybe they'll find something in the Virginia Constitution that prohibits it, but I'm not going to be surprised, you know. So if this is the trend now, though, going forward, where blue states are going to squeeze out Republicans and red states where they can are going to squeeze out Democrats, why do we even have the House of Representatives, right? You know, in the past, everybody's talked about getting rid of the Senate. Mm-hmm. Why don't we get rid of the House of Representatives? We'll just have a Senate.
Yeah, I mean, at least the Senate is representing the whole state. You can't gerrymander the Senate unless you change the map of the states, you know, which is a lot harder to do. So
I don't even know how you do that. I mean, I know some people like in Illinois want to get out of Illinois and they're trying to get over to Indiana. And we've talked about how there are counties in Oregon that want to join Idaho. I guess that's one way to do it. But, you know, if this is going to, maybe SCOTUS will get involved here at some point to put the toothpaste back in the tube, but it's out. It's out. And if you have a situation like Virginia that has Northern Virginia and other urban areas where they feel like that population can overwhelm the rest of the state, and even if it was like, you know, 52-48, I think that's what the vote was. It's enough.
It's close, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's one of these things. I mean, it's like the filibuster. We've talked about this.
Yep.
It's like once the genie's out of the bottle, you can't put it back in the bottle. And you think that because you're in power or you control the state legislature in this case, that, oh, well, we're going to use it to our advantage. Well, yeah, it might work in the short term, but you're creating a precedent where now that's a normal thing that you do. And it's the same thing with the filibuster, with getting rid of the filibuster. So now whenever the tide turns, the pendulum shifts the other way, it's going to be done right back to you. And now whoever has power in every state, that's going to become normal, is that you just redistrict, and then, you know, 4 or 6 years later, the other party gets in power, and then they redistrict, and then it's just, you know, it's a punching bag.
Well, you know, and Virginia might have written a new template on this, if you think about it, because, you know, in the past, it's been state legislatures that have done this, and state legislatures are made up of very small districts around the state. Mm-hmm. And they said, well, you know what? Like I said, we've got these urban centers and we can overpower it. What if Missouri did that? What if we had a statewide vote on a map that, you know, instead of having whatever the makeup is now, I think there's 2 Democrat. No, there'd be 1 Democrat seat out of Missouri with the new map. What if they went the other way and there's only 1 Republican seat? Mm-hmm. And they have population centers in Kansas City, St. Louis, mm-hmm. Springfield. You know, Columbia is pretty liberal, so, and they could overpower everybody else. This could be the new template, so I think it's going to be interesting to see this. Now, how does this tie to illegal immigration, specifically in California? Democrats there have made it unbearable for anybody with the means to get out of the state. We're seeing that a lot, right? People are going to Texas if they can, Tennessee, Florida, places with no state income taxes. So California has found a way to keep their representation in Congress because the census does not count citizens, it counts people in the state, right?
Yep.
Right. So Democrats have come a long way since 1993. I'll give them that because they were actually tough on illegal immigration and birthright citizenship, which we've talked about. I found this clip from the archives from the late Senator Harry Reid.
Illegal alien isn't enough. How about offering a reward for being an illegal immigrant? No sane country would do that, right? Guess again. If you break our laws by entering this country without permission and give birth to a child, we reward that child with U.S. citizenship and guarantee of full access to all public and social services this society provides. And that's a lot of services. Is it any wonder that 2/3 of the babies born at taxpayer expense at county-run hospitals in Los Angeles are born to illegal alien mothers? Just when the American people think nothing can be more absurd than the way we deal, or rather don't deal, with illegal immigration, they discover that we have a political asylum system that would qualify us for Senator Proxmire's Golden Fleece Award 1,000 times over.
Yeah.
I don't know why he didn't make this award.
There
He
you
should
go.
have.
1993. Bill Clinton was president, and we played clips of Bill Clinton being very tough on illegal immigration. I mean, those guys would be Republicans right now because it sounds like a speech a Republican would make on the floor of the Senate right now, while Democrats are trying to somehow defend birthright citizenship as being constitutional. We've torn that apart with the amendment that covers it. Man, I don't know. Democrats also oppose voter ID. Even though 80% of the country supports it, we've broken that down by demographic, by African Americans, by Hispanics. They overwhelmingly support it. They say, why? There's no proof of widespread voter fraud. Well, who would know? They've made it a crime to even ask in California. You can't even ask for ID. That's now criminal. Democrat policies remain wildly unpopular. Do we even know what their policies are? They really don't. The only policy they have moving forward is Donald Trump is bad. Donald Trump is bad. Vote for us. What they are for: open borders, defunding the police, and now ICE. And by the way, late last night, as we record the podcast on Thursday, the Republicans used reconciliation to fund ICE. They did it without one Democrat vote. Shameful that they've done that. You talk about the filibuster. Democrats held the filibuster, and I may be wrong on the vote total. Fetterman may well have crossed over and voted for that, but I do know that they did it with a simple majority to get around the filibuster. No ID to vote, we've covered. They want a huge government. There's not a government policy where the government takes over something that the Democrats and the liberals have not embraced. Their thirst for power is unquenchable. They'll do whatever they can to regain power. Why? What do they want to do with power? What do you think they'll do if they win the fall, the midterm election? I've talked about this. I will be shocked if H.R. 1 is not impeaching Trump for whatever. Mm-hmm. They probably already have the template. Impeach Donald Trump. Fill in the blank. All right. And maybe it'll be more than 1 or 2 or 3. I mean, he's already been impeached twice. He holds the record. So what's 3, 4, 5, or 6? It won't go anywhere.
The most impeachments by any president, right? They say I'm the greatest at impeachments.
When he puts the presidential library together, there'll be a whole room on that. Holding the record for impeachments. Who wouldn't love to have that? They continue implementing policies to enslave the American taxpayer. These elections matter. And when you vote for stuff like this, this is what you get. And that's why voter turnout is important, and knowing what it is you're voting for. And if you really want to go with this democratic socialism from Bernie Sanders through Mamdani to AOC, if that's really what you want, if you want a federal, bloated federal government that's going to hold your hand from cradle to grave, vote that way. I'm not going to vote that way because I don't believe it. I don't believe in it. So, anything to say on that segment?
No.
Moving along then. Max Motors is the official vehicle of Dale Carter's America. MaxMotors.com. Mark Muller is the owner and operator. He was a guest last time on the podcast. Max Ford in Richmond, Max Chrysler in Clinton, Max Chrysler Ford in Butler, Max Chevy GMC in Nevada, and also Max Chrysler in Nevada. Those are all small towns. And one thing that those small towns have in common is low overhead. They're Missouri dealerships that beat the big city dealerships every time because they don't have to pay Quentin Lucas's 1% tax. They don't have a lot of the rules that happen in the big cities. Small towns do things a little bit differently. And you're like, well, I don't want to drive all the way to Richmond. I don't want to drive to Nevada. I don't even know where Butler is. I do know where Butler is, but you get my point. You don't want to drive all the way out there. So when you go to the website, MaxMotors.com, he's the Amazon of car dealers. Find the one you like. They'll bring it to you. Pick the one you want at MaxMotors.com. The easiest place to buy your next car. Small town American values, God, family, and country. And if you don't buy from Max, Mark Muller encourages you to buy American. And then when you buy that car, let's take care of it. My buddy Tim Porter is all set to do that at Christian Brothers Automotive. Find the location nearest to you at ChristianBrothersAuto.com. Now, they're independently owned and operated, but all very clean and very thorough in terms of what you're going to need to do for your car. Even if you're a novice, you don't know much about cars, I don't. So they walk me through everything with baby steps. Tim owns the one in Independence that's on 40 Highway, just east of 470, 291, whatever you call it in that area. You'll find him in the island between the lanes there on 40 Highway going toward Blue Springs. Local owner, he lives here, goes to church here, grew up in Blue Springs, which is right next door to Independence, and everything that he does for your vehicle is going to come with a 3-year, 36,000-mile warranty, whichever benefits you the most. They work on everything. So get that first oil change, get the tires rotated, get the health of your car. Just like you take care of your body, take care of your car, and it will take care of you. 816-795-6811 for Christian Brothers and Independence. ChristianBrothersAuto.com on the web. Thought today would be enlightening to have a bit of a history lesson because on this podcast, I've talked a lot about the modern bloated federal government, and I always trace the roots back to FDR and the New Deal and all that. It turns out I probably could have gone back a little bit earlier, and I had help in this from Justice Clarence Thomas on the Supreme Court. He gave a speech, and he traces it actually back to Woodrow Wilson and the world that came out of World War I.
Okay, here's that.
That Wilson and the progressive go well. The European system that Wilson and the progressives scolded Americans for not adopting, which he called nearly perfect, led to the governments that caused the most awful century that the world has ever seen. Stalin, Hitler, Mussolini, and Mao all were intertwined with the rise of progressivism, and all were opposed to the natural rights on which our Declaration are based. Many progressives expressed admiration for each of them shortly before their governments killed tens of millions of people. It was a terrible mistake to adopt progressivism's rejection of the Declaration's vision of universal, unalienable natural rights. Go well.
That's Clarence Thomas, Supreme Court Justice. So I want to take it from that point. Our federal government was a lot smaller before World War I. From 1900 to 1930, government spending was less than 10% of GDP. So you may wonder what changed there to build this bloated federal government. Well, the 16th Amendment, which was passed during Wilson, gave Congress the power to tax income. And Washington has not looked back since. FDR took it to a whole new level to, quote unquote, save the country from the Great Depression. All-time high federal spending to GDP was 45.62% in 1945. Almost half of our GDP went to federal spending. We got close to that during COVID. Counties like Jackson County, by the way, are still sitting on millions in unspent COVID money. Remember when Biden put out the funny money and all of a sudden inflation spiked to 9% because there was too much money chasing too few goods, the definition of inflation? Well, Jackson County still is sitting on that money. I think they've got a deadline to distribute it. I'm sure they will. They'll find, I'm sure, some wonderful, needy agencies that are going to take that money and do something with it. They've already done some of it. Trump tried. He tried with Doge. They cut some employees, but the debt keeps going up. You want to show the debt clock? Mm-hmm. I mean, the deficit is decreasing, and again, that's because of some of what Doge did in removing some federal employees, but the debt is still skyrocketing. There you go. So the
39 trillion.
And climbing. But if you look at the deficit, just below that, it's actually going down. And that's related to Doge. But there's a lot of information on the U.S. debt clock. It probably would scare the hell out of you to look at it. But we look at it from time to time because whether there's a Republican or a Democrat running things, I still care about the debt. I was never sold on tariffs. We talked about that a lot on the podcast. And now the government, because of the Supreme Court decision, is refunding that money. Mm-hmm. So where's that money going to come from, right? Interest on the debt is now over one. That's a stat on there as well, I think. Mm-hmm. Interest on the debt is over $1 trillion, right?
Interest on the debt, $1 trillion. Yep.
Yeah. And what do we spend on defense?
$935 billion.
Yeah. So we spend more on interest on the debt, and that's going up. Interest on the debt has about doubled in the last few years. Mm-hmm. And that you have to pay that. You can't not pay that. So that's why we still run at a deficit. So that's bad. That's bad. Trump wants a new Fed chair because he wants to improve monetary policy so we can grow out of this if that's possible. I'm beginning to think it's not possible, but at least we got to try. But the Senate turning it into the latest clown show. Elizabeth Warren starts the questioning of Kevin Warsh, who is Trump's pick to run the Fed. First of all, by slamming the fact that he's made a lot of money. That is a no-no with Democrats. We all need to be poor and dependent on the government. That if they had like a 10 commandments, which they won't have because they don't believe in that kind of stuff, but let's just say they had 10 principles that they go with. The first principle is they want us all to be poor and dependent on the government.
But not them.
Oh, no, not them. No, do as I say, not as I do. That's probably number 2 or 1A in the Democrat playbook there for that. So she came up with a clever name for him.
I'll take that as a no as well.
I would be redeeming my assets
Donald
before
Trump
I take
has
office.
made clear that he does not want an independent Fed. In fact, he has said, and I quote, "Anybody that disagrees with me will never be Fed chairman." And he's made clear that you are his sock puppet, saying last week that interest rates will drop, quote, "when Kevin gets in." Yeah, I think they do. Not when economic conditions change, we'll get lower rates. Not when the economy needs it. Nope. He said, when my guy, Kevin Warsh, is in there, we'll get the interest rates that I, Donald Trump, wants. So independence takes courage. Let's check out your independence and your courage. We'll start easy. Mr. Warsh, did Donald Trump lose the 2020 election?
We try to keep politics, if I'm confirmed, out of the federal.
I'm just asking you a factual question. I need to know, I need to measure your independence and your courage.
Senator, I believe that this body certified that election many years ago.
That's not the question I'm asking. I'm asking, did Donald Trump lose in 2020?
And I'm suggesting you in 2020, the Fed made a huge inflation problem, and you certified the election.
So let me ask you another question.
Out of monetary policy.
In our meeting,
So our old friend John Kennedy came to his rescue because he's on that committee too.
And here's That.
What's a sock puppet?
I heard the reference from Senator Warren.
Yeah, what is it?
I'm not sure I know. I think it's that thing you stick your hand in.
Yeah, kind of like this.
Yes.
What's a human sock puppet? Isn't a human sock puppet somebody who'll do what somebody else tells them to do?
I think that's what the senator was trying to suggest.
Are
I
you
think that
gonna
was
be
the innuendo.
Are you going to be the president's human sock puppet?
Senator, absolutely not.
Are you going to be anybody's human sock puppet?
No, I'm honored the president nominated me for the position, and I'll be an independent actor if confirmed as chairman of the Federal Reserve.
My friend,
can you imagine if he was just like, yeah, I'm going to be a sock puppet. I'll do
You're right, Liz.
I'll do whatever he says. Sorry.
Friend Senator Warren, and she, as my friend, suggested that, I wrote it down, you will use your power. You might use your power to bail out your friends if they get in trouble, kind of like President Biden did with Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank. She didn't say the last part. I just did. Are you going to do that?
No, Senator.
Okay.
Yeah. Gotta love John Kennedy.
He's got the name of what you call it in the Midwest when you do the laundry. You wash. You wash the dishes.
It's kind of a St. Louis
clothes.
thing. Yeah. They say it like that. Yeah. I don't say that. Yeah. By the way, I'd like to point this out, that Donald Trump appointed Jerome Powell as the Fed chair. I think that gets lost in all of this because they've been feuding about stuff. He hasn't fired him. Mm-hmm. He would be within his rights to fire him. Jerome Powell's term is up, and Donald Trump is going to replace him. He doesn't have to reappoint him. He's waiting until the term is up, and then he's going to make a change. Fed chairs and Supreme Court justices are hardly sock puppets on both sides of the aisle to the president who appoints them. We could have a litany of examples of that, and Jerome Powell is one right now because Donald Trump is screaming from the White House, I want interest rates down, and he's not going to do it. Will this guy do it? Will Kevin Warsh do it? I don't know. He might. I mean, I'd like to see it. I think it would spur economic growth. I think it's holding the country back at this point. But I'm not an expert on this. Kevin Warsh is.
Will he wash the interest rates?
I hope so. Get him washed. So my opinion on all this is the best way forward for America is, and I think you would agree with this, is to wind down the war in Iran. Let's get out of there. But I would say let's make sure we don't have to go back in. Get the economy back to where it was before and then start gradually lowering rates. I mean, I don't know if that makes me a sock puppet or not.
Maybe.
I'd be a cute sock puppet. I really would.
Maybe a bobblehead. We can do it.
Yeah, I could do a bobblehead. I like that. All right. Well, that gets us to Royal Roofing and Solar. And I put up a picture. Actually, it was a little video with Austin Watterson because they put on the first Tamco roof in Missouri, the hail-resistant roof that comes with a 20-year warranty. And you think we don't need that?
Kansas City,
I'll mute it. You can talk over it.
Well, you think we don't need that in Kansas City? As we're doing the podcast today, we got more storms in the forecast. I haven't heard yet if schools are going to get out early like they did last Friday. How ridiculous is that? We live in the Midwest. Are you kidding me? A couple of weeks ago, the Royals, because there was a storm coming, they canceled the game. And then the storm didn't happen.
Yep.
It's crazy. So Tamco is the new big name in roofing, and Austin Watterson will put it on your roof, and then you won't worry about hailstorms anymore. There have been a lot of storms. You want to get Austin and his crew up on your roof. They would love to do that. 816-540-7057. Roofedbyroyal.com. They did the roof on my house, and they'd love to put a new roof on your house. Tamco Hail Guard is beyond Class 4, and that's important. The old days of the scam, and I heard one of our advertisers on KFKF talking about this. Get us up on your roof, and then we'll go to your insurance company, and we'll get you a free roof. I mean, doesn't that just sound like a scam? Yeah. So Austin's gone the other way. He works with insurance companies like Bob Watson at State Farm. Get you the right roof on your house and lower your homeowner's policy rates. It can be done. They work hand in glove. That's why we put Bob Watson here, my local Blue Springs State Farm agent. He covers my house. He covers my cars. He'll cover a lot more things. If you care enough about it to insure it, you really need the best, and that's State Farm. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Bundle your home and car insurance like I do, and you'll save even more. 816-229-7878. Boat insurance, you got a pontoon boat out on the lake, he'll cover that for you too. Your business needs insurance, he'll cover that for you. Licensed in Missouri and Kansas, Bob Watson, my State Farm agent.
Tremendous people.
Is there any optimism to be had? I mean, as a younger guy, Kurt, do you have any optimism about the future? Or are you thinking you said you were doom scrolling earlier. Is it
that's just a phrase.
I know it's a phrase, but is it doom and gloom for you, or is there optimism?
No, not at all. I'm not necessarily optimistic about the world, but I'm optimistic about my family and just leaving it up to the Lord. I think we're all going to the same place, hopefully at the end of the day, we're all going in the ground, and then we're either going up or we're going down. So, I think it's easy to get black-pilled on the world and everything that's happening, but that's why it's important to have a community and to have faith in the Lord and to pray and, to just be the best person that you can be each and every day, because, ultimately a lot of this is out of your control, and it's a lot of times designed to make you angry and to hate each other. So we need to resist that. Yeah, we talked about that earlier, about what's going on with the Southern Poverty Law Center and how they appear in the indictment anyway to be paying people who they say hate them so that they'll do more hate stuff so that they'll raise more money. That's just crazy. And then you go on Facebook and it's just a toxic environment there as well. And that's the thing too. Like, if you're feeling depressed or distraught about politics, like, just turn off your phone, man. Yeah. Just go outside, get off of social media, whatever it takes. Just actually interact with people and breathe some fresh air and say a prayer, and you'll feel better. All right. I'm going to leave you with a little optimism. We're coming up on America 250, the 250th anniversary of our country. Jenna Bush Hager, who works for NBC, has been doing a series of interviews with the living former presidents for America 250, including her dad, former President George W. Bush.
Across from one another and debate.
Well, we can.
Yeah. And we have
right.
For a long time.
Yes, we have.
But what can help us bring us back to each other?
Well, I think one of the things about the 250th is a chance to focus on the common good and the wonders of this country, the history of this country, the fact that you can worship freely without government tell you how to worship, the fact that you can speak in the public square without being jailed, the fact that we have a press that's willing to hold the powerful to account. I mean, these are all things that should and generally do unite us. I am not concerned about the long-term health of our country because I've studied enough history to know that we've been through the periods of intense anger and intense rivalry of ideas. But the beauty about democracy, Jen, is that it's self-correcting. And one of the key things I'm going to try to do during the 250th is encourage citizens to participate in the process. And if you don't like what's going on, vote. And that's how America heals itself.
Yeah. Spot on. So again, that gets back to something I said earlier in the podcast. We're voting for the government that we get. And if you don't like it, you got to vote. And if you don't live in an area that meets your expectations, that's why we have 50 states. That's why we have lots of places you could live in this country, right? Yep. I got my eye on Florida right now. So until next week, we'll leave you with that optimism. Not that I'm moving to Florida. Not happening anytime soon. We'll be back next week. This is Dale Carter's America.
The views expressed on Dale Carter's America are Dale's and Kurt Wheeler's. They do not necessarily reflect the views of KFKF or Steel City Media. Comments can be sent to dalecartersamerica@gmail.com. Check back for weekly episodes. Subscribe, spread the word, and give us a 5-star review. Thanks for being a part of Dale Carter's America.